Hey everyone, welcome to the To Catch a Predator iceberg, which was created by the Reddit user WizardBernie. In case you have not heard of the show before, it basically revolved around the host, Chris Hansen, confronting adult men at a sting house. These adults showed up on the pretense that they'd be meeting up with a minor that they had been in contact with online, when in reality, the minor was simply an adult decoy. The episodes typically ended with the men being arrested, but here and there we get a few surprising conclusions. Now, this iceberg isn't necessarily organized by how heinous each of the subjects are, but more so by their obscurity. All of these guys are disgusting people, and the subject matter itself is very serious, so do be aware of that before watching the video. But despite the dark undertone of the topic, some of these guys' reactions and mannerisms are just really interesting, you could say. This is hopefully a brand new ongoing series on the channel, and we will only be going over a portion of layer 1 today, so if you do want to see more from this iceberg, hit the like button and let me know that you'd like to see the rest in the comments. So without further ado, let's begin. Anthony Palumbo, aka Hi Buddy What's Up, was one of 28 predators in the Ocean County, New Jersey sting operation where he was suspected of going after a boy. Hi Buddy What's Up was his screen name on an AOL gay chat room, and it's commonly assumed that Palumbo thought he was already in a chat room talking with people, and this was meant to be his first message, not his username. Palumbo was 46 years old when he began interacting with a boy that he thought was 14 years old. Additionally, he decided to lie about his name and age. He went by the name Chris at the time, and he said he was actually 35 years old. And only minutes into the conversation, Palumbo begins asking very explicit questions, such as if the decoy was a top or a bottom. He then asked about the boy's experience when it came to kissing and oral before describing what he wants to do with the minor. Some of the more famous lines in the TCAP community from this episode are, "You want do it raw," and "no rubber," but the rubber was actually spelled with one B, so it kind of sounds like no rubber. Palumbo and the decoy then continue the conversation where the decoy just kept playing dumb, pretending that he didn't know what any of this stuff was. Palumbo did get a little suspicious at a couple of points where he would say that he was concerned that the boy may be a police officer and how he didn't want to play effing games. Eventually, Palumbo and the decoy would agree upon a time and location to meet up. Palumbo arrived with beer and he was clearly very nervous throughout the encounter. He repeatedly told the decoy to place the beer in the fridge, but the decoy just kept saying, "Oh, I'll do it in a bit."
You can put that in the fridge.
Yeah, I'll put it in a little bit.
Alright. I'll relax.
I'm just a little nervous.
I'm nervous too. That's all right. My excuse to come here, I went to Atlantic City.
I don't know. What
Put that in the refrigerator. I don't know. We'll just chill out.
That's it.
All right. We'll see what happens.
I'm just nervous. You know.
That's all right. You could put that in the refrigerator anytime.
When Chris Hansen came out to confront Palumbo, he said that he was just stopping by and he was actually headed towards Atlantic City to see his quote-unquote other brother. The two then began an exchange where Palumbo said that he was only nervous because it was nighttime and he wasn't really fond of driving around when it was dark. When Chris brought up the topic of visiting a young boy alone, Palumbo just said that he was dropping off beer, and he insisted that the boy was 18 years old, but in reality, the decoy did indeed say that he was 14 years old on two different occasions. Palumbo then obviously lies about his age because he sort of pauses a little bit and stretches out the 30 before spitting out the age 39. So now he has given out 35 as his age online and 39 in person when really he's in his mid-40s.
He tells me several times he thought the boy was 18, but in the chat log, the decoy tells him 2 different times that he's 14. How old are you?
39.
39. You said you were 35 online.
35. 39.
We find out later he's actually 46. He says he's unemployed and spends his time caring for his ailing mother. Then he tries to explain away his graphic sexual chat.
You asked him in your chat if he was top or bottom. What does that mean?
Did I ask that? I don't remember that.
Are you top or bottom? I'm horny, you say.
I was just fooling around.
Well, if you're just fooling around, then why were you so concerned about knowing whether or not he was a cop?
Chris later explains just who he is and the premise of the TCAP show, to which Palumbo said that he doesn't want to be on television. Following this, Palumbo attempted to flee the house, but he was stopped just as he exited the home. He was charged with attempt to lure/entice a minor and was released after posting a $50,000 bail pending trial. Palumbo was found guilty of criminal attempt and received a lifetime parole supervision term and was listed on the S-offender registration. And it was later revealed by Chris Hansen in 2019 that Palumbo was actually arrested again later on for a hit and run where he spent 45 days in Rikers Island prison. JPW, or JeanPierre Wary, unfortunately suffered through a very difficult childhood. He was molested and abused by his stepdad at a very young age and was even diagnosed with schizophrenia. And to make things worse, Wary had another person who assaulted him when he was 11 years old. This time it was by a 15-year-old boy. When Wary hit the age of 14, that's when his own horrendous tendencies began to take form. He was charged with child molestation as well as contributing to the delinquency of a minor after he got 2 young girls drunk. And this is just one of the instances where he was involved with minors, and after being incarcerated, he was committed to a mental institution. Wary's psychiatrist diagnosed him with Asperger's instead of schizophrenia, and he was released from the institution at the age of 17. And this guy actually moved in with that psychiatrist afterwards, and they began dating. This relationship, however, did not work out, and Wary left to become an S worker, and there is just so much more detail about this man's life after this point, but I think you guys all get the idea that he led a very troubled path from a very young age. In late December 2005, Wary was in his late 40s and came across a 13-year-old boy named Luke online, which of course was a decoy. Wary was telling Luke how he was a professional photographer in the adult industry, as well as things like he wanted to swallow him and cuddle with him. On the night of the meetup, Wary went through the back door, and this guy just bolted towards the decoy's voice despite being completely out of breath. Apparently, Wary had hiked to a bus stop and then hiked some more to get to the house, and he said that he's been walking for nearly 5 hours. Wary told Chris that he was there for some sort of job from a man named John Peterson, but this name later changed to Scott. Additionally, Wary mentioned that he hasn't used email for years.
Who were you looking for?
John Peterson.
John Peterson.
Yeah.
And why were you looking for John?
Well, I was going to talk about some business.
And what business was that?
I'm going to try to find a job somewhere, and I heard about John Peterson.
And why did you come to this house looking for John Peterson?
I had a phone call.
A phone call?
Yeah.
From?
In fact, I don't actually know the guy, besides the fact that his name is, I don't even remember his name. It was about 5 hours ago. I've been walking.
So you were just walking down the road and you thought that this fellow with the construction company lived in this house?
Somebody told me that he lived.
Chris tells Wary that they know that he used a public library computer to message the decoy, but Wary said that it was somebody else using his name at the library and that the entire situation was just a big mix-up. As Chris reads off the messages sent by Wary, he just keeps on insisting that he was not the one sending them and that there was just some random guy impersonating him. Because Wary had 3 prior felony convictions, he was sentenced to a grand total of 75 years to life. This was later reduced to 50 years after an appeal in November 2010.
He maintained until the very end of the interview that he was just a dusty, determined traveler who came from a long ways away to try to get honest work. The problem with that, of course, is that none of it makes sense. When you put it all together, the chat, his crumbling story, and the fact that, you know, he's the guy sitting in the kitchen across from me, you know, it doesn't look good for him.
This entry refers to a man named Michael Willis, aka generic white male. Michael has made a lasting impression on the TCAP fandom with his memorable quotes and his prominent glass eye. Michael was 49 years old at the time and met a decoy online posing as a 15-year-old girl named Jolanda. Michael lied about his age and told the decoy that he was 30 years old, and because there was such a large difference in age, they'd have to keep their relationship a secret. In an attempt to rizz up this 15-year-old, Michael said that even though she may not want him around because of his age, he's quote-unquote cute though and built good. Michael also said younger girls like you don't come along often before sending a picture of his
Willis, screen name generic white male. He's almost 50 years old and he's been chatting online with a girl who calls herself Jolanda and who says she's 15. He lies to her about his age, typing, "I'm 30. You probably don't want me around you. I'm cute though, built good." Then he says,
"We'd have to keep us a secret because of the age difference. Younger girls like you don't come along often. I'd want you again and again."
Chris Hansen then came out and began questioning Michael as to how the cookies tasted, and he said that they were great. As the two kept talking, Michael asked if this was some sort of setup and that he was just stopping by on his way to the beach. And as is common throughout the Iceberg, when Michael was told the age of the decoy, he acted as if he didn't know, and the way he says this I just find really funny.
Then I remind generic white male that Jolanda told him she was 15.
What? No way.
You know, I have the transcript of your conversation with Jolanda.
You know what? I don't want this cookie. I just want to get to the beach.
Come here, just 1 second, sir.
But generic white male won't be going to the beach today. As he heads out the back, he stumbles off the porch right into the arms of the Fort Myers Police Department.
Michael did admit to everything, and inside his vehicle, police found a 6-pack of beer, condoms, as well as some other items. His bail was placed at $40,000, and he was charged with the attempt to solicit a child over the internet. This entry refers to a 20-year-old named Sebastian Rodriguez who encountered a decoy that he thought was a 12-year-old girl. Sebastian's episode is actually most well known not for him, but for his friend, who was sipping on a seemingly endless Rockstar energy drink. Sebastian lied to the decoy about his age as well as his name, telling her that he was 16 years old and named Chris. But once the decoy said that she was actually looking for someone older, he then revealed his true age of 20. After setting up a meetup date, Sebastian brought along some alcohol as well as his friend David. Similar to the other entries, when Chris questioned the guys as to what they were doing, Sebastian and David said they were just going to hang out.
Seriously.
You got Mike's Hard Lemonade, you got condoms. Sounds like you were planning to have sex with this girl.
I'm not, sir.
But why would you bring this stuff,
I'm not, sir.
How does that look?
I know, sir. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. I don't want to go to jail.
What would have happened if I wasn't here and a 12-year-old girl was here?
Nothing, so I wouldn't have done anything with her.
How come you brought your tag along?
Because I just brought him because I wasn't going to do anything, sir. I just wanted him to come with me. I really wasn't planning on doing anything, sir. I just wanted to come see.
Or the other option would have been that
The two decided to leave the house after the cameras were revealed and both were arrested, but since David really didn't know the girl's age or Sebastian's intentions, he was let go and not charged for anything. Unlike David, Sebastian was charged and served 3 months in jail as well as 36 months on probation. And in 2013, Sebastian was released from prison after serving a 4-year sentence, but it's unknown why he was even there.
say about what you're doing here tonight. We'd be happy to hear it, and if not, you're obviously free to go.
Great, thanks a lot, sir.
I'm just
Alright.
We'll go on.
Thanks a lot, sir. Now, what about these cameras? Am I going to be on TV or?
Well, we don't know that yet. We're doing a story, and we haven't made any final decisions about who's going to be in the
What if I don't want to be on TV?
Well, I mean, we're allowed, because you made the decision to come into this house, we're allowed to videotape this.
Oh, I see.
So it's kind of up to us, but...
I want this to be on TV.
Well, I just
I really
can't-
wasn't planning on doing anything.
I understand your point, but what I'm saying is I don't know who's going to be on and who's not. Because
Okay.
we're not even there yet.
Alright, sir.
So,
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Can I take this, or?
Yeah, you can take them. You take your...
Lauren Lynn Armstrong was 37 years old and brand new to the Nashville area. In a sick attempt at trying to make new friends, he messaged what he presumed to be a 13-year-old girl. He said, "If nobody will talk to you, sweetheart, you can talk to me. I'm a good guy." And this next part is just messed up, but at the end of that message, he said that he has 2 nieces of the same age. Throughout the conversation, Lauren was trying to sell this image that he was some sort of guardian and he only wanted to watch over the girl. He realized that she was quite naive and didn't realize the potential dangers of the internet. So he tells her to be careful and that there are weirdos in every corner. Lauren talked with this girl frequently over the course of a month, and he gave very explicit details on how he planned to abduct her and then rape her. And around this time is when he became extremely possessive and unhinged. He showed signs of jealousy towards the friends and family in the decoy's life, as well as her ex-boyfriend. Many people in the TCAP community often like to poke fun at the lack of knowledge that Lauren has when it comes to intercourse, as he pretends to be all-knowing since the girl said that she was a virgin. This, as well as some other really corny stuff, has solidified his legacy in the community. He even named his dick Mr. Penis.
Where are they?
Out in the truck.
Well, what good are they going to do in the truck if we're in here?
Well, yell at me, why don't you? I haven't had a kiss yet.
Oh, okay. Well, then what did you want to do?
Well, I want to kiss first.
When Chris confronted Lauren, he didn't deny anything. He knew exactly what he was trying to do and what he did and how messed up it all was. He even broke down and began crying. Lauren was facing a potential 20-year sentence at the very least, but after taking his lawyer's advice of accepting a plea deal, he was sentenced to 7 years instead.
You tell her to delete her archives.
I didn't want her to get in trouble by her parents.
What do you think ought to happen to you?
I think I should go to counseling to get off the internet. I gotta do some things I can't do that. Oh my God.
Well, there's something I gotta tell you. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on it. Now, you're free to walk out of this house right now. But if there's anything else you want to say...
He ultimately served 5 years before being released and placed on lifetime probation. In 2017, he resurfaced on the internet and thought himself as some sort of famous celebrity. He created a YouTube channel in an attempt to make some money off of the attention that his name brought. On his channel, he made videos on a wide array of stuff such as singing, cooking, working out, and other things. All of his videos were immensely downvoted, and rightfully so. The guy's a complete weirdo. And in his comment section, a bunch of people would troll him by saying the exact things he said in his 400+ page chat log. But Lauren didn't seem to realize this, and eventually another YouTuber told Lauren that he was being trolled and messed with, so he did end up leaving the site as a creator, and in 2019 he was actually arrested for violating parole. The name of this entry is a quote from a man named David Wesley Schumacher. David is also known as Freebird_72000. He was a potential predator that was caught in a Fort Myers, Florida sting operation, and he's best known for his tendency to act like a quote-unquote gangsta. At the time, David was 21 years old, and he had been under the impression that he was talking with a 14-year-old girl named B in a chat room. David and this decoy talked for about 4 days, where David said she seemed at least 17 years old. David also invited her to a party where they would both smoke marijuana. He continued and described the explicit things that he'd like to do with B during the party and how he intended on staying the night with her after the party had ended. David believed that everything was in order and all he needed now was a ride. He was able to talk his sister into driving him to B's house to pick her up and drop them off at the party. But as we all expected, this is not how things played out. David walked into the home and called out for B before eating the cookies that were set out on the table. While the decoy was hiding inside a room, the two began talking about how they were going to smoke in just a little bit. As David was impatiently pacing back and forth in the room, Chris Hansen came out and greeted him. At first, David thought Chris was the girl's dad, but it slowly dawned on him that this was not the case. Chris asked if he knew how old B was, and David replied with no, when in reality he was well aware of her age. In fact, David even asked B what her parents would have thought if she hung out with an older guy. David then yelled out, "You seem like law enforcement," to which Chris then revealed his true identity, which signaled the NBC camera crew to come out of hiding. The sudden appearance of the cameras prompted David to cover up his face with his shirt and his hat, but it was already too late. The cameras had been recording him ever since he stepped foot in the house. David attempted to defend himself by claiming that he was simply taking part in a role-playing chat room, and the television series simply wanted to ruin people who were just trying to live their lives.
Right? Okay. Who are you? I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story.
You do look kind of familiar.
Who try to meet kids on the internet.
Hey man, I don't want to be on the news. You filming?
We are filming.
I don't want to be on the news, dog.
Well, it's a little late for that, dog. Now, if there's anything else you want to tell me.
All I gotta say is, ain't nothing going on here, dude. Nothing funny going on here.
Nothing funny going on.
No, if the girl's really 14, then I gotta move. But
she told you she was 14.
See, we were in a role-playing chat room, dude.
You know how many times I hear that?
No, I was in a role-playing chat room, dude.
David left the house and was promptly arrested by law enforcement. David's sister wasn't entirely aware of David's intentions, and she said that David informed her that the girl was 17. During David's arrest, he was laughing at the police when they couldn't find marijuana on him and said that he didn't need to hook up with a 14-year-old because he got all kind of girls. Before David was carried off, he said that he was going to sue everyone involved in the arrest when he's found innocent and let go. So this entry focuses on a man named Michael Jason Sabert, and he has actually been caught not once but twice in this series. In December of 2005, Sabert visited a decoy posing as a 13-year-old when he was 25 years old. Chris immediately confronted Sabert and asked for him to take a seat. When Chris questioned Sabert about his age, he said he was 18 years old, but after Chris requested for him to tell the truth, he admitted to being 25.
18.
18? You want to try again?
25, son.
25. And why did you think it was okay to come here and have a meeting with Evie if she's 13 years old?
I know. Sorry about that.
What was your plan here?
Nothing, just talk to her. That's it.
Just talk to her?
Yeah. That's it.
Then why did you send pictures of yourself like this to her?
Oops.
Oops.
I will never do it again. Promise.
Never do it again?
Yep. I'll take off my list. Never talk to her again.
You say a lot of sexually charged things to her for a 13-year-old girl.
You know what I did wrong. Okay. It will never happen again.
Okay. Go ahead, you can move.
Okay.
He was ultimately sentenced to 18 months in prison, and just on the surface you may think that Sabert appears relatively harmless, minus this particular event of course, but he actually served a year in prison in the past after being responsible for a deadly assault on another man with a bat. Once Sabert got out of prison, he was caught in the act once more, and in the second encounter when Chris confronted him, he covered his mouth and said, "Oops, sorry, can I just go?" This time, Sabert was trying to meet up with a 13-year-old, and according to Sabert, he was actually trying to tell her to go away, but she just kept on coming back. Chris brought up how in their previous encounter that Sabert promised to never do this again, and Sabert just says, "I promise this time. Rip it up, I'll never come back."
You know, you look familiar to me.
Oops.
That's right. Oops, he's done it again.
Oops, sorry.
Do you remember who I am?
Can I just go? I'm sorry.
You were just in court on Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened in court on Friday?
He said more time.
More time before the next court date?
Yeah. I'm sorry what I did.
Okay. What are you thinking about? Now you know...
I know it.
You know what you said online, right?
Yeah.
How old is this girl?
No.
13. She told you she was 13.
Yeah, and I told her to go away. She keeps eyeing me back.
Michael, you know this is not right to do this, right? We had this very same conversation in Riverside, California.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And right then, you told me that you knew this was wrong.
I know.
And that you would never, ever do it again. And that turned out to be a lie, didn't it, Michael?
I promise this time, if you rip it up, I'll never come back.
What was the deadly weapon you used in the assault?
Bat.
And who did you go after with the bat?
Of course, Chris did let him go, but before leaving, Sabert asked if there were any cops outside, and once he got to the front door, he actually tried looking for another way out. He asked if he could use the bathroom, but Chris just told him to leave. Once he did exit the home, he was yet again arrested and imprisoned. His bail was set to a whopping $1.1 million, and apparently the judge that oversaw Sabert's case had a history of giving predators relatively light sentences since they thought these guys were just lonely, desperate people who took their fantasies too far. But for Sabert in particular, this judge saw him as a serious danger since this was not a first-time offense. I think the potential sentencing for all of his charges was between 10 and 20 years, but this was knocked down to just 3.5 years. Cody Green was 20 years old when he came across a 13-year-old girl online named Maddie, and while Cody was messaging this girl, he was also on probation for driving under the influence and then fleeing from the scene of an accident. In the chat logs, Cody was found bragging about being a hood-born hustler from the mean streets of Atlanta, when in reality, he was from the well-off suburbs of Alpharetta. Once Cody figured out that Maddie was a virgin, he got so excited that he wanted to show his bare ass to the girl online, and by taking this picture, he also revealed this massive rash that he had on his butt. Cody explained that he didn't want the girl to be grossed out by the rash when they met up in person, so he wanted to show it off at that exact moment. On the day of the meetup, Cody pulls up in his new Cadillac SUV and tries to follow the voice of the girl into this room, but once he steps in, he finds Chris behind the curtains.
I said, if this is really not what you're looking for, I really want you to tell me that, because I will come over and I swear I will just be with you and I will not touch you, anything like that, is what I said, and I can prove that to you. I will show it to you.
You'll show me how?
Please, I swear, sir, I'm a desperate person. I need a girl in my life, and if she really wanted to be my friend, that would be all I needed from her.
Immediately, Cody said, "Please, sir, I drove all this way for no reason. I'm a desperate person. I need a girl in my life." He insisted that the 13-year-old Maddie was the one asking for all of the pictures that he sent, and that he would never have even agreed to the meetup if she wasn't on board as well. Cody went on and said that taking someone's virginity is probably the cleanest, best pleasure, which has become an infamous quote within the TCAP community.
Did you say you are ready to have my fang in your mouth?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
Are you ready to have my in your mouth?
She says, you don't mind I'm a virgin? You say, if you don't mind me taking it from you, I actually would love it and never have been with a virgin.
I know it's not respectful, but I was just asking her if she wanted to do that online.
Yeah.
Yes.
You would have had sex with a 13-year-old girl?
Probably, yeah.
Why? Because it's so alluring to have sex with a 13-year-old girl?
It's just something that you'll probably never have again. That would be probably the cleanest, best pleasure, I would say.
The cleanest, best pleasure?
Yes, sir.
Is to have sex with a 13-year-old girl.
After being arrested, Cody made bail, and a month later, he was taken back into custody in his neighborhood after he exposed himself to an 8-year-old girl at a public pool. He even put his finger to the girl's mouth to shush her to tell her to keep quiet. This resulted in him being in custody for an additional 3 years. Michael Warker was a 29-year-old computer technician and had only recently returned to work after living off of inheritance money for the last year or so. His screen name was Can I Rape You Anally? Only minutes after encountering a 13-year-old decoy named Kiera, he asked the girl if she had a fetish and that he likes. Walker goes on and on about how he wants to live out his fantasy with a minor and says that he even wants to cut her with a knife and drink her blood. Afterwards, he wanted to cuddle and watch the Silent Hill movie.
Though my arrival doesn't seem to faze him one bit.
This is punch, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that this was a setup because this was too convenient for this.
And you thought it was okay to come over here and meet a 13-year-old girl at the age of 29?
And hang out, yeah.
That's all you're going to do was hang out?
That's what I told her, yes.
Yeah.
But remember, we have his chat log, where he writes to someone who says she's a 13-year-old female, I like.
What kind of a guy has a screen name, Can I Rape You Anally?
It gets responses. Just something that I like to put myself into that role and talk about.
When Michael arrived at the house, Chris didn't waste much time and confronted him immediately, and the dialogue between the two just had me shaking my head the entire time. Chris brought up how the girl was 13, and Warwick said something to the extent of, well, people can say what they want. For example, I can say that I'm 12. Warwicker also tries to justify his intentions by saying that everyone has their fetishes, but as Chris reads what Warwicker said online, he begins to realize how crazy his specific fetishes sound out loud. Once Warwicker left the house, he was arrested and he was charged with lewd acts against a minor under 14. But since he already spent 120 days in jail, he was given time served and 5 years of probation. There was also a very strict condition where if there was any sort of violation, he would be sent to prison for 4 years. Hey everyone, so that's going to end the video. Thank you all so much for making it this far. Apologies for having this video be so late. I believe by the time this one goes up, it's going to be like about 3 weeks. I've just been really busy with real life, but fortunately I will be able to take the leap to trying YouTube full time in like the next month or two. All thanks to you guys, of course. Thank you so much for the growth over the last like half year or so. Soon I'll be able to go back to uploading videos on a weekly basis. The next video is going to be I believe it's part 11 to the Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. I have quite a bit of the script done already, so that video is going to be over an hour or so. But yeah, anyways, that was just a quick update I wanted to give. I also want to give a special shout out, as always, to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you to James Harrington, T-Bone Steak, Fear the Milkman, Sasha Wise, -5 stars, 0 to 9, Jerome Reuter, and Hero for supporting the channel. And one last thing before I end the video, I am going to be live streaming on April 3rd, so if you want to stop by, feel free. I'm going to be playing some horror games and probably shitting my pants live, and hopefully I can make like live streaming on this channel like a more regular thing. So yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you all so much again for making it this far, and I'll talk to you guys all again. I hope you all have an amazing day.